just building a community in the coaching world at all different levels. Adam and Brandon and some of the other guys have really given us the ability to advance the narrative for women in sport. And so that's what we're doing here. But it's a great just opportunity to be around other people that love coaching and have a passion for it. And I just encourage you guys to check it out. And we're going to go into our video now.
Okay, we always have technical difficulties.
Always, always.
Okay, here we go.
Eyes wide open, darkness closing. Just stay focused, I'm not folding. I'll upset you, cause I'm just too dangerous. I'm dangerous. Let's be honest, this ain't no contest. Take those comments and form my concept from the get.
All right, everyone, welcome to Women in Sports Week 10. We made it.
Hi, everyone. Yes.
I'm Erin. I'm one of the hosts.
And I'm Ashton, Pilz. We're really excited for week number 10. Erin and I were talking this week. It's just incredible to see the growth and see everybody continue to tune in. And we have two really incredible people tonight, and we're excited to introduce them. So, Erin, you can take it away.
Yeah, with that being said, tonight we have Coach Jay, Coach Banks Constantine. She is the newly assistant coach at the University of Alabama. As well as Chloe Barnes, who is an entrepreneur, an advocate, a writer, and she's currently the founding partner of the Prolific Company. So thank you guys so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Yes, thank you so much. It was an honor to be asked to be on this platform.
Of course, we're really, really honored to have you guys. So we love to kick it off. Our first question, how do you start your day off before work-related things? What are you doing to kind of kick-start your day?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go on a great, perfect day. I always like to try to start my day off with some devotional, whether that's some kind of prayer or, reading, maybe meditating, worship music, something like that. I can't promise you now, especially with a 9-month-old, that happens every morning, but that's definitely always my intentions. And then usually it's getting him ready. And so just get him ready and then get him off to daycare. And then I usually like to work out. And so that's usually my morning. And if I can get all that done by like 10 o'clock, then I've counted my morning as success. But again, those are on like the really, really good days.
Yeah, and for me, I don't have a 9-month-old to take care of, so I commend Coach Jay for still like getting up and working out, because I can't tell you the last time I got up and worked out in the morning, so props to you. But the one thing we do have in common, I always do start my day, I call it with, my gratitude journal, so I'll sit down and do highlights from yesterday, talk through and journal like some of the things that I'm excited for. I'll also like set an intention for the day. So I just ask myself the question, like, what would make today a really good day? And I try to be intentional about making sure I set myself up for that. And then I will always have like a bowl of cereal and a cup of Starbucks like coffee. But do not talk to me before I have my coffee. It's like 1 cup, it's perfectly iced, like 1 cube. I don't know, as like athletes, I think I'm just used to like routine and like process and doing the same thing repeatedly. So unless anything crazy happens, that's typically how I start my morning.
Yeah, I've tried to cut the caffeine and I just feel like I drink more when when I'm trying to rid my body of it. Our coach used to cleanse us, and we'd always have headaches and stuff. Oh, it's the worst. But just kind of the first question. So something that you guys kind of, since you're in different in different industries, but both had very successful playing careers. Just kind of, if you guys could really just speak to the way you had had successful playing careers, and now you're killing it in your respective industries. How did playing inspire you or shape you to really do what you guys are doing now, as well as just lessons that you now try to teach young people around you that you yourself got from your playing careers? Coach Jay, if you want to take it away on that one to start.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I thank God for my parents and how they raised me, and just what they instilled in me, the values, the morals, so many of those things, I believe, definitely led me to where I am today. But then just sports. I played growing up. I did basketball, I did volleyball, track, softball. So those are probably my 4 main sports. So I was a part of so many different teams. I played for so many different coaches. And I just feel like sports in general teach you so many lessons in life: teamwork, work ethic, responsibility, respect. It teaches you how to recover from failure. It teaches you how to handle success. It teaches you how to work with different people. And so all those things, all those lessons, I think have led me to where I am today. I'll claim that you said I was killing it. I definitely don't feel like that every day. Some days I feel like I'm just surviving. But I definitely, every day I try to make great, and I try to make an impact. But I truly believe that sports just taught me so many lessons and values. And I think, honestly, I had some really, really hard coaches who didn't let me slack, who held me accountable. My dad was probably my hardest one. And obviously now that I'm older, I appreciate it so much more. Growing up, it was not always easy. But he pushed me, and he pushed me really hard. And then my mom was there just for that, like, support. She always was there to make me feel like, even if I feel, okay, come on, you can do it again. Like, let's go, you got it. To where my dad was just a little more harder. But again, it led me to where I am today. So I appreciate all the hard lessons and all the support that I had from all my different coaches and teammates that I played with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will +1 everything that Coach Jay said, and kind of double down more so, especially in quarantine. I've definitely realized like how sports has made me resilient in a lot of different ways. I think when you have the opportunity to play with a wide variety of people on different teams, sometimes you have winning seasons, sometimes you have losing seasons. Like, it's just having the ability to continue to move forward that was always so important to me, and has shown up a lot of ways in my business as well. And I think one of the other things too that it didn't really hit me until probably about a year or so ago, that like even small things and like small drills have really helped me kind of think strategically about life. And I'll give an example. Coach Jay, I don't know if Gerald ever did the whole like pass the ball but can't dribble like drill with you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That drill, like,
workout.
Yeah. It's notorious across every single stage or every single year of CHE stuff. But what it taught me, even though I didn't like it at first, is that like you are responsible for moving without the ball and for creating opportunities for yourself, right? So I'm a spiritual person. So now I kind of look at it as, God is always like working in my favor. He's always moving and happening or doing things like in my greater good, even when I'm not looking. So it's like my job to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success and to be able to capitalize on like opportunity. And
you better preach, Chloe, preach.
Thank you. But I learned that a lot through sports. And I think now that I'm older, like you start to really see how those pieces, come together.
Yeah, 100%. What do you guys think your transition out really was, like that experience? Like Chloe, I know you had some injuries and things like that. Coach Jay, like you played professionally. What was that really like for you both?
It was definitely.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
Okay.
Yours is, yeah. Go ahead.
It was. I mean, it was hard. I love the game. I tell people now, if honestly, if I didn't think I'd get hurt in the first 5 minutes, I'd go play again. But a little too old for that now. But it was difficult because I love the game and I love what the game did for me, and so as I transitioned out though, I was good being done, and I knew it was now my time to give back to the game. Like I said, the game, it did so much for me I've been coaching now for about 8 years. So, 25 years of my life, the game had did so much for me. So it's now my time to give back to the game. And I was grateful. I was offered some coaching opportunities that I had passed up to keep playing. And then it just got to that time where I kind of weighed my pros and cons, and I knew I wanted to coach, and I knew this industry was really, really hard to get into. And so with prayer and just listening, I believe that God cracked the door down for me to get into the business. So although it was definitely hard and challenging, I was content in the place that I was when I hung up the shoes.
Yeah, and I think that I had actually the complete opposite experience. There was no part of my transition that was content. Being someone that suffered from injury when I was playing, I had worked my entire high school career to play Division I basketball. I finally got there, and then I wanted to play, professionally overseas and think about that. And then when I had my first concussion, like towards the beginning of my freshman year, and I ended up having 6 total, like I had to end the game or leave the game not on my own terms, which was really, really hard. And so for me, I actually ended up, that's what my company's based off of, is helping other athletes, transition to life after sport, because for me, it was really, really hard. To put it into context, like I had a class because I was still on campus after I was medically disqualified. I had a class on the other side of the gym, and I could just cut through and be there in 5 minutes. But for an entire year, I walked to the complete opposite side of the gym. It took me 45 minutes to get to class, because every time I walked in the gym and I saw my teammates or I saw my friends, I would cry. And it was something that took me a long time to get over. And it's still something that feels like a major loss. But the part that helps me, similar to Coach Jay, my way of giving back is being able to counsel and work with other athletes on their transition and to help make it a little bit more seamless for them. And that's helped me, deal with my own, grief of not necessarily having left the game on my own terms.
That's really good. Kind of speaking more on just the transition after your playing days, Coach Jay, what are some of the tools that you have used, at Indiana, and now that you're going to use at Alabama to really showcase, your athletes, that they're more than athletes and they're more than the stat sheet, just how you're empowering them to be young women?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest impact that I can give is how I try to live my life every day around them, and how I try to let my actions, speak louder than my words. So one of the reasons, Chloe's funny you mentioned, so it's one of the reasons why I still try to work out, just for something that I just feel like that's a part of what we do. And so for me, it helps me continue to have these conversations with our girls of how hard work and how, it's pain, but you can push through, you can do it, and so I just try to use the tools of always try to make every athlete feel valuable. Not everyone usually does, but I try to make it my mission. I speak to player one, like I speak to player, when I say 15, I don't mean that, but you guys know what I'm saying. For someone who may play no minutes to whoever plays 40 minutes, I try to tell my girls I love them as much as I can. I'm a big hugger, so COVID has been a really hard transition, especially now at Alabama, and we have to go to the elbow bumps. But I just try to give as many touchy kind of things, again, high fives, chest bumps, whatever it is, just encouraging words anytime I see them. I mean, literally, I try. If I see them, I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" I try to get really excited for them, and I just try to let them know that they were created, by God, and that's, again, I'm a faith person, so I relate a lot of things to faith. Not all my athletes do, and that's okay. I think things can still be relatable, but I let them know that they're special. Like, they're someone's daughter, whether you think of your God's daughter, you're your parents' daughter, you belong to someone. Someone loves you, someone values you. I don't care if you go score 20 points or you score 2 points. Your life is more than a box score. You can have a greater impact in your areas. than how many points you can put up on the board. And, you know, try to get them not to compare themselves to people, but it's a daily challenge. I mean, so many of these athletes, you know, I think of listening to Chloe's story, so many athletes go through so many things, you know, whether it's injuries, whether, you know, I've coached players who have lost parents, who have lost siblings, you know, just all like life really happens to some of these athletes, but you just always try to inspire them to just keep going. You know, you always try to inspire them, don't play the victim. You know, yes, you can have your pain. Yes, you can have your grief. Do we need to seek help? Do we need professional help? Like, what resources can we give you? But you have to let them know, like, they can keep going. They can make it. Like, you know, they can be triumphant. And so just always trying to find uplifting words to build them up as women.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I have a year of eligibility coach. If you, no, I'm kidding.
Hey, look, do you work hard?
Of course. I played for Gerald. I feel like we all
right. Hey, if you work hard, we can accomplish a lot. Can you still get a bucket too? You got to be able to get a bucket.
We'll work on it. No,
all right, we'll work
Shoot
on
your
that.
shot, Erin. Shoot your shot, man. I respect that.
No, I'm good. We're good. I'm very at peace with my career. But Chloe, just kind of to speak off of that, what kind of inspired you, if you want to just talk about your consulting firm, like how you started, and obviously you kind of got into it with your career coming to an end, but just kind of what really fuels that for you?
Yeah, so I've always had a passion, like I mentioned before, for helping athletes in their next phase post-sport. But I think what actually like was the catalyst for me being able to start my own firm, I had worked on college campuses in the player development space pretty much my entire career. So I went to business school. I was working at Ball State University. I went to Texas Tech University and was working with Coach Smith and Coach Kingsbury and that whole crew in the player development space. And I ended up moving to Chicago and working with Loyola University Chicago and their men's basketball team and overseeing their academic and student athlete development program. And while those opportunities were amazing and being able to be there every day with the students, being able to really, you know, see like real change for them happen on and off the court. Even, you know, the Loyola men's basketball team, like being able to hear them talk about, you know, going to the NCAA tournament and then like that next year to see them there with like Sister G, and like that's wild. But as good as those things were, like the higher education system has a lot of red tape, and there's a lot of different things that I felt like were getting in the way of me being able to provide services to athletes that like they really needed. A lot of schools like don't necessarily want to talk about, you know, mental health in the way that they should. They do now, but when I started my company, they didn't. A lot of schools didn't necessarily want to talk about like what it actually means to provide support professionally for athletes once they, you know, are done. And it's like funny, I started my company right before this like new wave kind of came in of like student development, and now everybody cares and now it's like a thing. But when I was starting my organization, they didn't. And so I was like, you know what, I could either stay on campus and help these like my new group of students, or I could take a risk and venture out on my own and have the ability to impact athletes all over the world. And so that's what I decided to do. And it was risky, and people in the business told me that that was crazy because I was doing some things on a national scale at that time, and it wasn't like their traditional path of like working as an administrator, being an athletic director. It was just kind of my own thing, but it was something that brought me a lot of joy, and it was something that I knew that if I didn't do it, I was going to regret it. So that's kind of where that came from.
Kind of adding on to that conversation, you know, you were talking about like mental health wasn't really talked about when you were playing, but now how are you holding those conversations with your own team, you know, with your people that you work with? And then Coach Jay, how do you, you know, put those conversations together for your student athletes as well?
Chloe, you can go first.
Oh yeah, so for me, with the Prolific company, mental health is always at the beginning of everything that we do. So we focus primarily on placing athletes in career post-sport. But what we've realized is, you know, having a meaningful career doesn't mean anything if like mentally you're off, right? So like a lot of the athletes we've worked with, like they've actually never really grieved the loss of like not being able to play anymore. And guess what? Like that shows up, right? That shows up in how they interact with other people. That shows up in how they, you know, present themselves on job interviews. A lot of them also, once they're done playing, like go back home into very unstable environments, and they are still dealing with a lot of trauma that they haven't had a chance to, address. So for us, how we talk about mental health with the athletes that we work with is helping them understand that like the athlete transition is holistic. Like as much as it is about wellness and nutrition and fitness, like it's also about being able to have a great career once you're done playing. But it's also about making sure that like you're mentally well and emotionally stable, and you feel supported in that, and you feel comfortable having those conversations. Because if you're not mentally in a good place, like literally nothing else matters. And so that's how we start talking about, mental health, and not necessarily making it a bad thing. Like we pair, our athletes with like therapists, but like we call them coaches. Like it's the same thing, like people that help you figure out how to perform better in your daily life. And so that's how we think about it.
And for me, I think I tried to first build relationships, with our student athletes. And again, you don't reach everyone because everyone isn't willing to maybe open up as much, especially in a coaching role sometimes, because there are certain things that when I say I dictate, obviously the head coach, gets to call the shots, but whether they're upset with you about playing time or you could have just yelled at them. So there's different things that kind of get in the way of coaches sometimes, but I really try to first one, build relationships. I try to encourage my athletes just to communicate. I always say communicate eliminates confusion. And so I try to really stress, please don't make me feel like I'm a mind reader. Like I'm not. So when we have these conversations, like be willing to share certain things, or I'm not going to know, like, you can't just tell me every day you're good. And then, you just erupt. Like, let's really try to be transparent. And if I feel like I see something, obviously, you dig in more. I'm always encouraging if you need outside resources, meaning, whether I was at Indiana or now Alabama, like there's so many resources that we have where these student athletes can get to, but you have to get them to understand and accept it as well, and just also trying to make sure athletes who are looking at things are you having a bad day, or is this really something that's lingering, and if it's something that's lingering, let's definitely get you, we got to get you some help. You got to be willing to talk to someone, because you will just crash. And that's where it becomes really bad. And so, but if it's just a bad day, let's work through that. How can we get better? I talk to my athletes all the time about choices. And choosing. Sometimes you just have to choose joy. You have to choose to just overcome this situation and not let it bring you down, but still be willing. Again, you can still get help through that process, if that makes sense. So I'm a big proponent and just believing that always have an avenue, always have an outlet, have an accountability partner, have someone you trust. And then if you need help beyond that professionally, because I tell people all the time, I'm not licensed to do what someone else can do. I can pray for you. That's one thing I can't do. And again, I can help you try to maneuver through things, but there are people who are trained to touch you in a different way. And I think you have to be willing to use those resources that your schools provide you, because when you get in the real world, it costs a whole lot. So take advantage of it now so you can learn, how to start coping through these things and learning different, methods that they use.
Definitely. And even just with the current climate, one of our former guests, she created Ball is Psych, and I literally just saw right before this that like 68% of athletes are like going into depression right now, and it's doubled the number since COVID started. What are just kind of some conversations you're having with athletes, Chloe, with people around you? I know you kind of talked about people are asking you like a lot of questions about that, and with your consulting firm, if you could just kind of speak on those issues and how you're being there for your team and the people around you in this current environment we're in.
Yeah, I am one of the people, it's probably an unpopular opinion. Like, I actually have really enjoyed this quarantine time, not because I don't like being out and talking to people, but because I'm a very introspective person. It's given me a chance to reflect on just a lot of things and like how I move and go through life. And I think for athletes, like there's so much of what we do that is a real outlet, right? So from a physical piece, like running up and down the court, stepping on the field, that part is important, but us not having that is out of our control. And so the conversations that I'm having with people now are, option A isn't available, right? So just like life, if you can't have option A, like let's also think through like option B. Like, it's been amazing to me to see how many athletes are like really starting to think critically. Like, for many of them, like, oh, this is what it will be like when I no longer play. I could have an amazing career professionally. I could make it all the way. And like, this is actually what life will be like. And so what is it that I'm interested in? Like, what gets me excited? What problems do I want to solve? How am I thinking through different things in the world right now? I think it's also been really positive that like athletes like LeBron James and Steph Curry and, you know, all these people are coming out at this particular point in time talking about, you know, social justice issues, talking about voting. And these athletes are starting to see that like there is purpose beyond them being an athlete and them stepping on the court. And so that's really the conversations that like we're having right now, is thinking through like, what value do you have as an athlete, and like how can you use this time, again, because it's out of your control, to like make your communities better, to set yourself up for success when you're done playing. And to really engage and to give back in a way that like most athletes, frankly, like have never had time to do. So that's what we're talking about on our end.
Coach Jay, what are kind of some conversations you're having? I know obviously via Zoom and things like that, and you talk about the resources, but you know how lots of creative things that need to happen. But what have you been able, and with moving and not, you know, now you're with a different team, what does that kind of look like for you?
Right. So this quarantine for me has been literally all over the place. And so, you know, it came with a lot of different emotions. You know, I knew I was leaving Indiana. When I came to Alabama, I didn't have a job, and then I got a job. And so it's been a lot of moving pieces. But I think throughout the conversations with my former athletes and the ones I'm having now, one of the things is just the love of the game and the appreciation of it. And now how not wasting a moment, because you never know when this game will be taken from you, you know, and how can you now think about when they talk about, you know, don't waste a day, play every game like it's your last, you know, things of that nature. And hopefully it re-sparks that fuel and re-sparks that fire and kind of gives them back their sense of purpose. Because I agree with Chloe, what she said, like the game is a great outlet for so many people. You know, there are so many people who, I shouldn't say don't have anything else but basketball, but this is where it's kind of their happy place. But I think this now opens conversation. Like Chloe said, your life is not, you're not defined by the game. And so let's find other things that bring you joy, that bring you peace, that where you can be valuable, where you can be resourceful. Again, what are you doing in your community? You know, who in your family, who can you talk to? I know for me personally, I've had so many more conversations with people, you know, because now you're not too busy. You know, it's hard to not return a phone call now because you're really not too busy. You know, so who are you loving on? You know, what relationships are you restoring? What teammate are you helping out? Where are you volunteering? You know, a lot of, you know, the social injustice things are coming up. So, you know, what are you doing? What actions are you doing? Not just talking about it, not just tweeting about it. And I think those things are all good. I'm not saying that, but what actions are you taking forth? What conversations are you having with different people? Are you willing to be uncomfortable in certain situations to stand up for what you believe in? And so those are the kind of conversations that I've had with many people. But again, some have been very emotional. Some have loved this time because it's given them time to maybe stop, pause, reflect. And so that for me has kind of been how our conversations have went about.
That's good. Kind of taking it in a different route. If you guys could go back to the start of your career, you know, after playing, you know, you just got out of college, what do you wish you would have better prepared for, or just known in a sense of, hey, I wish I would have known this before I became a coach. Oh, hey, man, if I knew this before I started my own firm, just some advice that you would give your younger self.
Wow.
Man, there's a lot of things I wish I knew.
Yeah, Chloe, I'm gonna let you take this one first. I'm being nice.
Okay. I mean, man, there's so many different things that I wish that I knew back when I first ended up playing, or when I first stopped playing. I would say, you know, especially when it comes to business, I'll kind of talk about like that lens first. I think I wish I would have known that, you know, the best way to move forward in business isn't necessarily always by yourself. I think as a woman, being in a space, especially in the sports industry that's often dominated by men, for a long time, I thought that like I had to do everything with my company by myself. Like I had to prove that like I had a service that people needed. I was the authority on this particular topic. And like that was great for a while, but it was really, really hard to scale my company. Now, switching into the prolific company away from my consulting firm, like I've realized how much of an amazing network I have of athletes that are in my circle. I have a great business partner, and like it's amazing how much more reach we have. Like when you go, you know, with someone else, it's like that cliche saying, like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, like go together. And I think that's something that I wish that I would have, you know, remembered. The irony is like I spent my entire life playing on teams. So why I thought that like I could do it on my own now, or like that's what I should be doing. I mean, who knows? You go through different stuff, but that's one thing. And I think just personally, I wish I was also prepared to like find my value like outside of sports. I mean, it's not ironic, I don't think, that like I'm still working in the industry, right? And I'm still tied to the game that has like defined me for so long. I wish that it took me, or didn't take me as long to like find other, you know, interests like writing or broadcasting or, you know, other things like that.
Yeah, very well said, Chloe. For me, I think, and I say this very embarrassingly so, I wish I would have taken my degree more seriously, honestly. I wish that I got a degree in legal studies because for a long time I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. But I think if I had really sat down and really just dove more into what I could do if basketball was not an option. Because even as a 34-year-old woman right now, I honestly struggle with that, of what I would do if I stopped coaching. I went through that transition a little bit here in Alabama when I wasn't coaching, but luckily I kind of had a void to fill with my son and being a wife. And so I was able to still find that peace and joy because I'm so busy all the time. Like I don't get to just sit home and, you know, me and my husband have, for the most part, have got to have dinner every night together during quarantine. And that's something that has been amazing, you know? And so I was able to find value in that. But in terms of maybe working, I always ask myself, what would I do if I wasn't coaching? And so I still kind of struggle with that. I'll be very, you know, honest and transparent. I probably have to go work for Chloe.
I was gonna say, we can talk about it. We can set that up. We can start now. The key is to start while you're still doing it.
Absolutely. So that's one thing I would have told my younger self. And my second younger self, my second piece of advice would probably be to live a little more. And when I say that, I was so wrapped up in the game. I was so wrapped up in workouts, and I had to do this and I do that, and and I don't think I lived enough experiences. You know, I don't think I got involved maybe in enough things outside. Like I was involved in SAC, you know, so that was absolutely, you know, was president of SAC at Wisconsin. But I don't know. I just feel like, I was just talking to somebody the other day, like there were certain like conferences that were held in certain places. And I just felt like I just wish I would have got involved a little bit more in regards to that. And so to make me a little more well-rounded, you know, and did my different experiences, and not, again, there's more to life than just the game of basketball. And you still can work hard though. You still can work out. Like I'm not excusing myself and saying I should have just been lazy, but I think I could have prioritized and used my time a little more efficiently. I don't know if more wisely. I just think I could have done it more efficiently to where I could have maximized everything that I wanted to, and not just basketball.
Yeah, I'll actually double click or plus one, whatever people are saying, on that as well. I think that's probably like one of my biggest regrets that I have in starting even in high school. For so long, it was like basketball at all costs, Division I scholarship, like you gotta go. And that cost me like relationships, it cost me dances, it cost me, I mean, I was going back and forth with my mom, you know, to Chicago every single weekend, which was 5 hours, 10 hours total, you know, like pretty much all throughout high school. And then even into college, I was like taking 18 hours. I was in the honors college. I just thought my whole life was like academics and sports. And like, while that's a very, very big and important part of college, I think that there's also a huge opportunity that I missed to like just have experiences and be a real person outside of just being an athlete and like being in the classroom. So I totally agree with Coach Jay. Like that's an important part of the experience too.
And like I said, I just think you can have both. You know, I think you can be a phenomenal athlete. I think you should train super hard again, and that may mean you sacrifice a little sleep. I think you still can find a way to get it done, but I just think, kids should do things like go to prom. They should live those moments out in high school, because you won't get it back. You'll become an adult, and good Lord, who knows what'll happen. And so
They're gone.
they're gone. When I was in college, take a weekend in college and, go swim, go to the beach. Again, you can still get your work in. I'm not excusing that. Maybe you get up a little earlier, you get that in for that hour, and then you still got 23 hours left in the day, and to do whatever you need to do. And so I just think that you can have the best of both worlds.
100%. You guys both kind of hit on it. So just for some background, Coach Jay and Chloe and myself, we actually all played for the same club, AAU. We're all from different parts of like different states, or not different states, but different parts of states. And drove quite a bit to go play in the city, but just kind of something that I know I always get brought back to, and even just talking to other girls that played AAU, what are kind of like the important parts of just the way that you were able to have the AAU experience you had, and it didn't always necessarily matter where you went or where your teammates went and things like that, but I guess what are some things you still really value from that experience in high school, and the way you were able to be a part of a family? Like obviously you were driving those distances for a reason, but yeah, if you guys just want to talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, for me now, I just relationships. I mean, it doesn't get any better than the relationships, which I still have so many of them now. And yes, a lot of it is still through social media, but we still find ways to connect. A lot of us have kids now. Some of us are married now. Some of us are coaching now on different levels. Some are still back with, Gerald and coaching in his program. And so I get to see those people sometimes on the road. And so those relationships mean so much to me. I value relationships. I value friendships. I value those people who add to me, who bring me just kind of like, purpose or peace or joy and love, accountability, all those different things. And so I'm thankful to my experience, with Chicago Hoops Express. I'm thankful for my experience that I had with my dad in different programs, because I played for a couple of different programs, from the family to Gym Rats to Chicago Hoops Express, and all those relationships still 20 plus years later. I still have so many of them today, and it's all because of the game and people like Gerald, my dad, Coach Merriweather I used to have, that just opened up those doors for us young ladies to live out a dream.
Yeah, I second that. I think the relationships that I had, and I kind of alluded to it, I spent more time in the car and in the gym in Chicago than I ever did at my high school. So like most of my closest relationships and friendships are actually with my AAU teammates. A lot of them are engaging in my company that I have now, which is cool. A lot of them are coaching, as Coach Jay said. I mean, they're doing so many amazing things, and like those are my people. A lot of them are married, have kids. And so I would say the relationships are huge. I think for me though, one of the bigger things as well, in addition to the relationships, was like just the exposure. For context, like I was born in a very small, like 40,000 person town, predominantly white, in like the rural part of Illinois. And like I had no exposure until I went to AAU and started playing in Chicago to like what the city life was. And I think for me, like that really shaped who I have become as a person, the type of people that I, surround myself with, the type of experiences I've been open to and comfortable with, all for the better, and things that I never would have had access to had I not been playing, basketball for Gerald in Chicago, during that time. And I think it also taught me like how important it is to like surround yourself with the best, right? So it's like to go from a really small town where you're like the best. And I was even on another AAU team before I went to Chicago Hoops Express, where I quote unquote was the best. And I had the option to stay, but I chose to like come and play with Gerald, where I knew I wasn't going to be the best person, where I knew that I had work to do, where I knew all of those things. And like to be able to see my game elevate because I was okay with being uncomfortable, and I was okay with like getting my shot blocks on occasion. I was okay like getting ripped, because guess what? The next time I went down the court, like I wasn't going to do that, right? Like you only learn like by playing with the best. And I take that into life too. Like you only learn if you surround yourself with like the best people, and you're like, okay, to make some mistakes. And I got that directly from my AAU experience.
Yes, definitely. I agree with all of those things, especially like just the relationships. And obviously I'm younger than you guys and have been able to get connected to you just through that. It's definitely a family, and we run really deep for sure. But Ashton, we want to go ahead and open up viewer questions. Let me try to see. Coach McDaniel, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, you can go ahead and do that.
Hi, so I've been a high school coach for a long time, and sometimes our kids don't transition well, whether it's to just stop becoming an athlete and they're just a student in college, or they're actually transitioning from the high school where it seems like we're more, sometimes can be more nurturing, I guess, and then now they're out in the world and able to kind of be free. How do we support that transition so that they don't fall back and have issues when they go off to college, whether it's as an athlete or even just as a student, now not ever being an athlete again, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, Coach Jay, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, because I see it a lot. In my role as a college coach now, I think I'd say I'm gonna say a couple things. I think that every chance you get, when there's a teachable moment for your athletes to learn, I think you can try to put them in that perspective, but in the same time, letting them also be high school kids, and letting them kind of figure it out, if that makes sense. Because I will say this, I compare kind of the transition to like conditioning. No matter what you do to prepare, it's never gonna, like, there's still gonna be a transition, because the moment you drop them off and you leave, they're now on their own. So the things that you've taught them, I mean, all that's kind of turning full circle. Kids get, homesick. Some kids are like, whoa, my gosh, I'm free. Let me go do this. Let me go do that. And so I just say teach lessons and hold them accountable, because when the rubber meets the road, I do believe those lessons and those voices come back to them, and they understand that's what my mom meant. That's what my coach meant. That's why they said don't do this. And so I think that's just a part of life. I think that's a part of their growing. That tender age of 18 to 22, I mean, man, they're going to go through so much, and they're going to learn so much, and they're going to have to make certain decisions, to get them there. And so I think a lot of high school kids just have to continue just to learn lessons and understand the whys. And I don't think that's something that we did as much so back in the day. I was raised is because I said so, because I said do it, and I think now teaching more of the why will help kids understand later on as to that's why, versus just do it because I said so, but helping them to understand this is why you need to take care of your grades, because you fail in class as a freshman, that's going to come back to bite you your senior year when that core GPA has to get turned into the clearinghouse. Not just you need to study, you need to make good grades. You have to really put things into perspective, into the lessons that they can really pull from and make it realistic versus just a bunch of rules and regulations and again, because I said so. And as coaches, you can be very guilty, because sometimes it's easier. Just do it because I said so, because I know it's right. But helping them to understand the why and why it's right, why it's important.
Yep. No, I agree. I think the why piece is so huge, especially with this generation of students, like, who have access to information all the time, who have access to social media and stuff all the time. Like, they ask why and they question everything. So, like, it's not enough anymore just to say, like, you need to do it because I told you to do it. It's like also helping them kind of connect the dots to the bigger picture. That's how I spend most of my time, is like, okay, so if you want to, do this in your life, like, here's actually how all of that pieces together. Here are the individual steps to, like, come into you making this bigger decision. And one thing that I have had to learn also, even just coaching athletes and working with athletes, is like, as parents, as coaches, like we have such high expectations for them that it can be very frustrating when they don't meet those expectations and when they fall short of like what we anticipate for them and like honestly what we know that they're capable of. I think where I found great success, like working with athletes, is also like helping them understand that like I'm a soft place to land. Like, should they make a mistake? That regardless if they make a mistake, regardless if they, mess up, regardless if I tell them to do something and they do the complete opposite, which happens a lot, that like I still love them and I still want the best for them. And so here's how we're gonna put a game plan together so you don't make that mistake again. And I think like being open to those conversations and being open to allow your child or your student or your athlete to like make mistakes is also a part of life, like Coach Jay said, and that also helps like strengthen the bond that you have. So like when they are in those situations, to Coach Jay's point, like you're in their head in a way that's like positive and reinforcing and not necessarily nagging.
Chloe, that's an amazing point. And so I'm going to circle back and say, I try to tell my kids all the time, I can always help you as long as you tell me the truth. When you start to lying and manipulating and sneaking, and it's going to be real hard. But I promise you, there is nothing you can do. It's funny because my mom used to tell me, there is nothing in this world you can do that is going to make me so upset with you that I'm not willing to help you through it. You know what I mean? So, and you have to be real too. I think, again, I'm going to be very real. We're on a platform. We teach college athletes. I mean, these kids go through real things, whether it's drinking, drugs, whether it's sex, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's deciding if they want to believe in, walk in faith, believe in God. And it's so many things that they grow through in so many conversations. And so you have to let them know that you are a safe place. I've told kids all the time, call me at 2 a.m. if you need to, because I promise you I'm better than the police. I've really had those conversations with kids, and you let them know on the front end, like, I would rather help you. Again, I'm not saying I'm not going to hold you accountable. I'm not saying there are not going to be consequences, but I promise you it can go a lot smoother if you're honest, open, and you let us help you. And like Chloe said, now let's talk about how we could have made a better choice. Now let's talk about what you should have done, instead of just shutting them out, turning them away. I think kids have to know that they can trust you and that you will help them through certain things, and so, I mean, again, you're dealing with real kids and they're going to make some bad decisions at times. And I think you have to coach through them and teach them through those bad decisions and life lessons.
Great question. Even better responses. Greg, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Chloe, and thanks, Coach Jay, for being on this. It's really great perspective. 2 questions. One for Chloe. What do you miss most about playing? Is it the practices, the crowd, the game time, the preparation? What is it that you most reminisce about? And then, Coach Jay, how do you think about recruiting when it comes to student athletes? What qualities do you look for that you think will help a college athlete be successful?
Thank you for the question. I miss a lot of stuff about playing. I think for me, the thing that I miss the most is like being a part of a team and that community. The game, I can play. I miss, actually, I take it back. I miss being in shape, like good shape, like 4-hour workouts a day shape. Like, it took me a really long time when I was done transitioning to realize, like, no matter how hard I try, I will never have 5 hours a day again in my life to work out in the ways that I was working out before. So I miss my basketball body, 1. 2, I really do miss the team and the community and being able to have like a group of people that no matter what was going on in life or what have you, that I knew that they had my back. And we had a shared experience, whether that was my college team or, my AAU team. I miss seeing those people every single day. They're like my family.
Hey, Chloe, I agree with you. Wait till you have a baby, girl. Ooh, wee.
Oh, man.
I didn't try to work hard to get this body back.
I mean, you look good from here up. I'm sure you look good down, you look great.
Yeah, we keep the camera up here. I got still a little flex muscle I can do, but that's about it. But no, Greg, to go back and answer your question, from a recruiting standpoint, and I don't mean to make this sound cliche, or anything like that. But it always depends on who you work for, because you always have to make sure your philosophies align with whoever you work for. And I've had the pleasure of actually having some amazing bosses. Obviously, currently was Coach Moore in Indiana for the last 4 years, and now coming under Coach Curry and learning her philosophy and things. And so one of the things that I appreciate about both of them, just because they were the last two, is just a high character kid. Obviously, because let's be real, talent is kind of a no-brainer. Like, it doesn't take us long to assess talent. Like, if you're not talented, and I'm not gonna lie for you can be the greatest kid in the world, but if you're not talented at this level, we're probably not recruiting you, because you do have to have, there is a level of production, and there is a level of ability that you have to be able to play at this level. And so that sets the bar, and that's usually not that hard to identify. And so after that, and so when I say talent, meaning you need to be able to score, usually at this level. Not that defenders aren't great, because they are, but usually at this level, you're winning basketball games because you can score about 80 points. And so you better have a nice jump shot. I like makers, not just takers. And so I'm usually looking for a kid that can shoot and score. And so obviously after that talent piece, I think high character. I mean, you have to be somebody we want to enjoy being around every day. We travel together, we eat meals together, we study halls together. I mean, we do everything together. And so I have to want to be around you. And I think after that, third, most importantly, like, you got to have some kind of work ethic, and I'm going to speak kind of from my Indiana experience. We used to tell kids all the time, you will not survive here at Indiana if you don't have a good work ethic. You will transfer under Coach Moore if you're not willing to work, because the demand is too high to want to be great. And she's going to push you in a way to be great and to work hard. Actually, and I see one of my former players, shout out to Allie. I think Will's on here watching low, some of my people. So they know, they get it. And now under Coach Curry, I think it's the same thing. She listens to different ideas I have, but it's a work ethic thing. Like, you have to be willing to put in the time and the extra time, because everybody's doing the weights, everybody's doing their little 4 hours a week. But what time are you willing to put extra, and how great are you willing to be? And so I'd say those are the three pieces, Greg. Like, talent, I mean, that's number one. I'll be very real with you. Second is just high character, and then thirdly is that work ethic piece.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great questions, great answers. JD, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, go for it.
You hear me?
What's up?
Hey,
what's up, Chloe and Janice? So my question has to do with just relationships. When I go on a lot of these visits, you talk about the mental health perspective, you talk about the physical dynamics, you talk about how do you motivate a player. But what I found even recently, I just had a phone call with a former player who their boyfriend broke up with them 4 months ago, and they're still struggling, and it's impacting them academically in the summertime. So, Chloe, you can also answer the question, because you had to deal with people academically and their success. So everything, and even Janice, you mentioned it, everything from the sexuality component, the just the overall, not even just the relationships on a personal level, but the relationships with friends that are pulling the kids in a different direction, especially if those friends aren't athletes. How important is that piece of really, really staying connected with how they move through their life with regard to relationships? How do you all handle that piece?
So for me, I take it back to communication, meaning hopefully that athlete is willing to communicate those things, and they don't expect me to be a mind reader, because I do believe I have a place where I don't want to overstep my boundary in a place in your life if you don't want me there, if that makes sense, And so, but I think that happens when you build the relationships in a genuine form that don't even maybe talk about when you ask them a bunch of questions, because those things naturally come up. Like, they'll naturally want to start telling you about the relationships and friendships when you're just building, again, just a genuine relationship and you're getting to know each other. And so when that comes apart though, and when that's cracked, I first try to listen. you know, and I try to listen before I start forming opinions, because I know, again, just from experience, how relationships really are and how they can be very, they can pull you in so many different directions, whether it's your family, whether it's boyfriend, you know, girlfriend, whether it's teacher, whether that's teammate. Like, it just, there's so many relationships and so many people can try to pull you in so many different directions. And so I try to always help my players understand who is filling your life and who is taking away. So who's filling your cup, who's emptying your cup. Identifying those people that are emptying your cup is probably where we got to start talking about, okay, now how do we handle that? Because those can become very toxic, but those people emptying your cup could be a family member. And it's hard just to say, well, cut them off, you know, or it could be a boyfriend. And it's hard. Again, I know it's real. It's hard to just tell a girl, just walk away. He ain't no good. It don't work like that.
You can't do that. No.
You can't. These kids have real emotions tied to them. Like they may be in love, you know, like it's not just walk away, you know. And so what I try to start doing then is just trying to be transparent. I try to walk them through my life story and mistakes that I've made, you know, and I try to be very transparent with my kid. Again, I don't just divulge everything, but I try to give them certain scenarios. I try to give them the good and the bad of decisions they may make. And so those people who are pulling from your life, I really try to help them identify that so they can really start to figure out what they want to do. And then those people who are filling you up, okay, how can we get more? Because that's who you need to be around. Those are some people you need to surround yourself with, because those people, those probably 5 people who you're surrounding yourself with the most are probably how you are coming about. That's probably how your character is coming about. That's probably who you are most like, you know. And so how can you get more of that versus people who are taken away from you? You know, I always believe iron sharpens iron. And so you just really have to identify those things, Gerald. And I, for a player like that, struggling with academics, again, I think that's a real life issue, you know. So for this girl, just say, forget about him, block him, get him out your phone. Like, those just are real steps. Like, there has to be other approaches that you have to be willing to help these athletes maneuver through, but then to understand and help them that, you know, life is real and you can't let adversity affect you, because again, this boyfriend ain't about to help you get no degree. So trying to get their mind to shape back to, we still got to handle business. We still got to figure out a way to get this done and to be productive in this way. And so those are just the conversations. And again, like closer, and just let them know I'm here for them and that we can go through this together. And if maybe you don't want to talk to me, then who can we get you to talk to? What area can I move you to? Who can I when I say pass you off, who else can I recommend you to? Because maybe I'm not the one that can help, you know, with this. And so just whatever it takes mentality, JD. That's how I am with these kids, whatever it takes.
Yeah. And I'll echo that on a few different sentiments. I think one, just like taking yourself out of the situation and recognizing that, like, at the end of the day, like, you love these kids, but it's not like they have their own lives and their own mistakes that they need to make. And what I found is the more that I've pushed my students to break up with someone, to, you know, because I know that it's toxic, the more that they rebel, right? So it's like, and then you're in the same situation anyway. So what I found to be helpful is a lot of things that Coach Jay has said, but like letting them know, like doing a simple exercise. Athletes are like very tactical. And my mom tells me this all the time, like when the pros start to outweigh the cons, you got to really think about, you know, leaving. And as Coach Jay had said before, like, are we having a bad day? Is this like a few bad days, or is this like an actual, you know, issue? And like, once you like start asking those questions, and I call it more of like facilitating, it's not me telling you my opinion. It's me getting you to get to the answers on your own, because then you like have some ownership in whatever outcome that you choose for yourself. And like, if you choose, you know, to be with that person, if you choose to continue to engage with your family, like that's fine. But then you also have to take responsibility for like what output that, you know, creates for you. And I'll still be here for that. But like, eventually what I found is that like, this person knows that they're in a bad relationship, and like that will keep coming up. They know that there's an issue with their family. And it's just a matter of asking them the right questions until eventually they have the strength to be able to move forward. And especially when it comes to relationships, I did a lot of work at Texas Tech on abusive relationships, specifically within the student athlete community. And a lot of it is because like they don't feel like they have support to leave, and they don't have like an action plan as to like what it looks like when they leave. where are they going to get support? Who are they going to talk to? Like, who's their friend going to be? You know, how are their friends going to engage with them, especially if it's like another athlete at the school, which I saw all the time. And so helping them think through, like they call it an exit plan, like helping them really chart and figure out like how their life can still be great without those individuals, whether it's friends, family, etc. I've always found that to be really helpful.
Thank you for that great answer, both of you guys, and also Coach Davis. Thank you for the great question. That was really good. Just kind of in wrapping up, want to be conscious of your guys' time. We like to ask, obviously, the name of the show is Women in Sports, so we are continuously trying to, raise awareness for women in sports, raising that platform. So how do you both see the overall improvement of women in the sports profession being, and how can we as women, young women, equip ourselves to best put those positions, like we can get a better chance to get into those positions, if that makes sense?
I'll go. I think one of the number one things is knowing your stuff. You know, you need to know your stuff, and you need to know more than just I'll speak from a college, perspective, and I know especially there's a lot of, I call them, I guess it's a stereotype, especially that comes with African American women, is all we are is recruiters, and I want to break that. I know the game, I know X's and O's, but you have to know that, and you have to be able to put that into practice. You can't just say it. And so I just think as women, instead of always just wanting opportunities, just go get it. I look at those women now that are in the the NBA coaching. Those girls know what they're doing. The Becky Hammonds, with Christy Tolliver, Swing Cash, and Kara Lawson. Like those women, they worked their way up. They kept grinding. And yes, they were phenomenal players, but I just felt like as women, to grow in this game is to continue to know your stuff. So continue to work hard, prove yourself, and then obviously continue to build relationships. I think what you guys are doing for the game now, just with this platform, is amazing. I think you're going to meet so many people, and know more than just coaches. Know SWAs, know somebody like a Chloe in a position that may not be she's not in a coaching position, but that can help you in different avenues. Know people who do team building, who do leadership. No athletic directors, because those are the people who are really connecting you and getting you in certain places. Ashton, I shout you out because you met me at a Final Four, and you came up to me with your own initiative and introduced yourself, and then you followed up, and then you wrote me a letter, and then you came and worked camp in Indiana. And so I always remember that grind and that determination and things that you were willing to do, and even what you're doing now, to show that you are a workhorse. And so I just think those things are also, I'm looking at some people right now on this call, and they know who they are, but they just continue to work. And so those are my two things. I think you have to know your stuff, and I think you just have to work hard, network, know people, put yourself out there, because your opportunity will come.
Yeah, and I'm gonna double down on what Coach Jay said. I think it comes down to three things. She already touched on know your stuff. As women, specifically in the sports industry, like people already look at us a little differently and think that for whatever reason that we're not as competent as we actually are. So unfortunately, like you have to know your stuff and then know a little bit more, and like make sure that you're tight, right? So, like make sure that anytime you step into an arena, every time you step into a room, anytime I go into a business meeting, I look at that as like an opportunity. It's just another game. I'm not necessarily on the court, but like it's my job to win. And so if the right person at the right time, like ask me the right question, like I'm ready. And so that's always something that's important. I would also say like know your story. There's so many coaches, so many people, there's former athletes, like as we had mentioned before on the call, so many former athletes, they want to be coaches because that's what they love and that's what they know how to do. So like to Coach Jay's point earlier, like what is your story? Like what makes you different? Why do I want to spend time with you? Like how are you going to show up for me? I'll share a story. Like when I was in grad school at Ball State, I was doing some stuff at the NCAA and was literally just like driving back and forth every single weekend, trying to like get my foot in the door. Now, fast forward almost like 10 years later, someone still has the first business card that I sent them because it looked different. Like I took the time to like put a graphic design on it or something. It was like cheap. I did on like Canva or something similar. But like they actually remember. They're like, oh, this girl's different. And she's like crazy because she keeps coming back and forth. But like, you know, it works. And that ended up getting me, you know, my job, that connection at Texas Tech, where I like launched my career and was able to run an entire department. Like by the time I was 21, like it was literally me being able to say, this is who I am. This is what I can bring. And like, here's why you should hire me. And being confident in that, I think is super important. And then also like, so, you know your stuff, know your story. And I think like you need to know like your network. Know other coaches, know people like that network across. What I say is like so many people try to network up. Like I need to know this person, like this head coach. But like the people that are like next to you in the trenches, like those are also relationships that you need to cultivate. So many people that I work with now are my peers and my colleagues. And there's also a lot of people that we choose not to work with because they bypassed us and thought we weren't good enough, like while we were, you know, first starting out in our careers. And it's like funny to see kind of how that happens. And I would also say, especially as women, like it's one thing to like go where you're comfortable. I know a lot of us, myself included, have a lot of amazing female mentors that have given me a lot of support. But at the end of the day, like if we're not always in the rooms or decisions are being made and like white males are, or just males in general are, like then it's also our responsibility to like develop those relationships too. Because those are all important. And like you need to be in spaces where decisions are being made, and you do that by developing genuine relationships with people that don't necessarily, you know, look like you. And that may be uncomfortable. I know that was uncomfortable for me in my career, but like I was fortunate enough to have a lot of really good male mentors specifically that helped open doors for me, because I wasn't afraid to say, hey, you know, I need a little bit of guidance in this particular space, and I don't really have a lot of men in my network. Would you be willing to like help me walk through this? And I think that you'd be surprised with a lot of people that like want to come and help you in this industry, because again, most of us are athletes, most of us know what it's like, and we want to see each other succeed.
Absolutely. And if I can add one more thing, and I'm sorry I would say this, but one other thing I would always say, especially as women, is present yourself accordingly. And when I say that, and I mean this, and I don't mean it in a vain way, but I always believe in presentation, you know. And so I say that, like, women, I tell, especially young coaches, when we go out, and this is funny because we're not going out this July to go recruiting, present yourself well. Don't roll out of bed looking like you haven't combed your hair, brushed your teeth, you was out at the bar late last night. Like, that's not a good look, you know, when you're trying to advance in this profession. So, and I say that, meaning you can have a nice ponytail. You know, you can have, it's not that you have to go get $500 hairdo, you know, you don't have to have your nails done, things like that, but you can still look nice if you know what I'm saying. And so I just always believing in presenting yourself in a way that people are going to remember you, whether that's your social media content, whether that's the way you look, whether that's the way you act out in public, you know. And so those are one thing, especially with young coaches, that I'm always trying to throw little nuggets at. And especially the ones I know, because I done told some people before, don't come to the gym looking like that tomorrow. We got to do better. We got to do better. And so, and they usually listen, but it's not always easy, but I believe that that's important. And I say that now, and I got my little sweatshirt on, but it still look good though. It still look good. I'm still tight.
It's on brand. It looks great.
There you go, Chloe. You look good though too, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Lift each other up. That's actually the last thing I will say. Continue to like lift each other up, because it is hard, especially in quarantine, especially with a lot of women in the industry, you know, are trying, like they're not at work, and a lot of them are still like primary caregivers. So they're trying to work and take care of their family and do all of this stuff. Like it is hard. And there's enough people that try to tear you down or make offhanded comments or what have you. But like, so anytime you have an opportunity to lift another woman up in this industry, like please do it. It matters. They may not even like make it look like it matters, but like they think about that the rest of their day. Like it makes a difference, you know. Show up for other women.
This girl been on here preaching tonight, y'all. I hope y'all taking notes. She been preaching.
literally. Oh, you guys are amazing. I wish we could talk about it all night. And just continue getting all these golden nuggets. But we do want to be respectful of your guys' times and and nights and evenings. But one thing we always try to do in kind of our each show with is our points of pride. Kind of like how we started, like we start the show with how you started your day. And this is just kind of what's one thing like each day that you guys try getting out of your job or out of your day. It could have been the best or the worst day, but what's something that you really try to look back on and feel proud of or encouraged by every day?
That's a good one. I'll go ahead and start. I think really simply, you know, I'm in the business of helping people reach what I call like their best day. And I still, for me, like what constitutes a good day is like, did I leave someone better than I found them? Like, did I leave something better than I found it? Is something better from an interaction that I, you know, had with someone? And ideally for me, it's like, did I make someone's life better today by a conversation that they had with me? Whether it was the first time that they've ever interacted with me, or whether it's my mom, you know, that I talk to every single day, like, was that interaction positive? And if that's the last interaction I will ever have with someone, is like that how I want to be remembered? And if it's a yes and it goes well, then like I consider that a successful day.
Yeah, it's kind of, I kind of am gonna go in twofold. Is did I make an impact? You know, did I make a difference? Was I kind to someone? You know, I'm in a position to where I'm supposed to help other people. You know, I believe God placed me in this position to impact others. And along the way, they impact me as well. But I want to be better every day. So when I get done with this day, I'm like, how can I be better? Every day I try to get better. And getting better and impacting the lives of the girls I touch. If I see a janitor cleaning a building, if I see somebody struggling in the store, you know, did I try to make a difference in their life?
Absolutely.
Love it.
Wow, you guys are great. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Week 10, you know, still going strong. But we just want to say thank you again, Coach Jay or Chloe, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. If you want to drop like an email or even just an like tag, whatever, for Insta or Twitter or Instagram or whatever you feel comfortable, just in case people have some follow-up questions